So this is the new Garmin Lily 2 Active, and this is a pretty substantial update to the original Lily and Lily 2, where they've added a lot of the sport features that we kind of come to expect out of a Garmin, like built-in GPS to track outdoor workouts, physical buttons which make it just a lot easier to use during sports, the ability to pair external sensors like a heart rate strap, as well as a pretty solid selection of new sport profiles. So Garmin's had quite a few hybrid smartwatches over the last few years, which have been more fashion forward, with designs that are probably more appropriate for the office or a night out or something like that, versus something like a running watch. But there were some features missing from some of these watches that you could only get on Garmin's more sport-focused watches. But they have really addressed that with the Lily 2 Active, where this is a very capable device that can be used for lots of sports, but still has that fashion forward look to it. In fact, I'm not really sure why they didn't just call this the Lily 3, because I think they did just really add that much more. And just really quick before we get into what the Lily 2 Active is all about, just thought I'd mention that although I'm not necessarily the target market for this particular watch, I'll just be sharing all my thoughts about how this performs as a health and fitness focused smartwatch. And don't worry, I won't just be showing my wrist in this video. I'll also have plenty of shots of how this looks on other wrists that are probably a little bit more appropriate, just so you can get an idea of how it looks. All right, so first up, the Lily 2 Active comes in at a price of $299, so it's $20 more than their Lily 2 Classic and then $50 more than the standard Lily 2, but it does come with a lot more features for that slight bump in price. So the watch itself is quite similar to the original Lily 2, where it has this clean, classic look to it, and they have a few different color options to choose from. So they have a silver version, they're gonna have a green version, as well as this gold version that I have for you here today. The case and the bezel are made out of aluminum, and then the display, which is made out of Gorilla Glass 3, sits on top of this interesting pattern and creates this pretty unique look to it with the LCD display on or off. Now, the case is slightly bigger than the original Lily 2, where the Lily 2 Active has a 38mm case versus the 35.4mm case from before, and it's also just a hair thicker at 11mm versus 10.1mm previously. It's still definitely a svelte watch, but increasing the case size did allow them to add the physical buttons, the built-in GPS, as well as a larger battery. So just a little bit of a compromise there where they're adding a lot more functionality, but still keeping it pretty small for the most part. Now, although the case size has increased a little bit, the band size is actually going to be the same as the original Lily 2. So you can still use any of those same bands, as well as any other industry standard 14mm bands. And the silicone band that it comes with is going to be great for sports and workouts, but there are plenty of other band options out there to kind of change the look depending on what you're going for. The display itself is also going to be the same as before, where this is the same transparent LCD display as the original Lily 2. Now, even though this isn't a full color display, it's also simple and doesn't really clutter up the already clean design. And another thing is that it actually has a surprising amount of contrast, where it's super easy to see both inside as well as outside. The one downside I found with this display though is that it doesn't have an always on display mode, where to wake up the display, you either have to turn your wrist or interact with the watch. Now, having an always on display mode does take a bit more power than gesture mode, but being that they did increase the battery life quite a bit overall, I think they could have just had that as an option for people who want that convenience, but are okay with charging their watch a little bit more often. And I suppose now is probably a great time to talk about battery life. So for battery life, they say that the Lily 2 Active can last up to 9 days using it as a smartwatch, and that's up from 5 days on the previous version. Now, battery life will depend on the kind of settings that you have, like the display brightness, as well as how many outdoor activities that you track. But I'd estimate that if you're tracking about an hour-long outdoor activity per day, and then you're also wearing it to bed to track sleep, along with blood oxygen saturation tracking, that you'll probably be around that 6-day or so range before having to recharge it. And then when it comes specifically for battery life for tracking outdoor activities, this is where they say that it should last up to 9 hours, but I've actually been getting far more than their estimate, where on this ride, I started at 100%, and then at the end of a 2.5 hour ride, it used just 13% of the battery. Oh, and then one more change here is that they've actually moved to the standard Garmin charging cable, which just plugs into the back versus the clip-on charger that they had before. So to get around the device, it uses a combination of a touchscreen, 2 physical buttons, as well as this little haptic button on the bottom of the display. So to wake up the display, you basically have to either double tap on the screen or press one of the buttons, and then the display wakes up. And when the display is active, you'll be able to tap on the haptic button right here, and then can kind of loop through different pieces of data like your heart rate, your calories, as well as the weather. And then beyond that, there's going to be widgets that you can access by swiping either left or right from the watch face. So this first widget is a My Day widget, which shows my steps. There's also intensity minutes, which is basically the time I spent doing vigorous activity, as well as my sleep. And then to back out of any screen or widget, you can either use the back button on the lower right-hand side of the case or the haptic button on the bottom of the display. And then moving on, the next widget is going to be health stats like heart rate, stress level, as well as Garmin's body battery metric, which basically gives you an idea of your current energy level based on your sleep, your activities and workouts, as well as your stress. And then for some more widgets, there's going to be events and weather information that are going to be synced from your phone. There's also notifications. And then all these widgets can be customized, by the way, by accessing the settings, where you can just long press the lower right-hand button, which brings up the settings menu. But additionally, you can also customize a lot of these settings through the Garmin Connect app itself. The upper right-hand button, though, is going to be all about workouts and activities. So this is going to be pretty much like all other Garmin watches out there, where this gives you a list of all the sport profiles and activities that you can track. And they've really expanded this quite a bit. So there's all the normal things that you would expect, like running, cycling, gym profiles, yoga, Pilates, as well as pool swimming, but they now have a lot more on the outdoor recreation side of things, like stand-up paddleboarding, skiing and snowboarding, as well as racket sports like tennis and pickleball. And then one more nice thing about the Lily 2 Active is that you can now actually add or remove activity profiles directly on the watch itself, versus before with the Lily 2, you could only edit these on the Garmin Connect app. So this is just going to be a lot more convenient now when you want to actually quickly add a new sport profile. But the addition of the physical buttons is actually incredibly nice from a workout perspective, where you can easily start and stop an activity using that upper right-hand button. Before, you kind of have to do this like tap and double tap sort of thing that wasn't really all that intuitive, in addition to kind of being challenging if your hands were wet, like with sweat. Having these buttons now is just so much nicer. And then when it comes to watch faces, so they have a pretty nice selection here from simple to more data-rich watch faces, and they also have different styles. So there's going to be sportier versions as well as kind of more classic styles depending on your preference. And then for smartwatch features, so the Lily 2 Active can receive notifications for texts, calls, as well as apps. And then you can also customize the behavior based on what kinds of notifications you want to receive. So you could have it show all notifications if you like, or a combination of text, calls, or alerts. Now, texts are going to be slightly different though when it comes to if you're using an iPhone or an Android phone. So if you're using an iPhone, you'll be able to see those incoming texts and calls, but you won't actually be able to reply. And this all has to do with Apple, by the way, not allowing text reply functionality on non-Apple watches. However, if you have the Lily 2 Active paired with an Android phone, you will be able to actually reply with predefined quick responses. And you can also create custom text responses in the Garmin Connect app. And then you'll also be able to see events and weather information that's synced from your phone. There's also the ability to control the music that's playing on your phone as long as your phone is in range. And then the Lily 2 Active also comes with Garmin Pay for contactless payments. And then when it comes to health and activity tracking, so the Lily 2 Active comes with quite a few features here. So it'll track your steps, it'll track your heart rate 24 hours a day, it'll track your calories burned. There's also Garmin's body battery metric along with Garmin's intensity minutes metric. It can track your stress. It can also track your sleep along with sleep stages. It can even track naps. And then it also can track your blood oxygen saturation levels throughout the night. And then also can track your HRV or heart rate variability. And then of course, there's also going to be women's health tracking features where you can track your menstrual cycles as well as pregnancy tracking, in addition to all the other health features that it has to offer. The one thing that the Lily 2 Active doesn't have though, which some of Garmin's more sport-focused watches do have, is that it doesn't have an altimeter. So the Lily 2 Active won't be able to track your floors climbed throughout the day, and also won't be able to show you your total elevation gain during an activity. It can still give you your total elevation gain after you save your activity, and I'll kind of loop back to that when we get to more of the sport features to show you how that works. And then on the safety and tracking side of things, so the Lily 2 Active has a feature called Assistance, where you can hold down the upper right-hand button, and what this will do is that it'll alert your emergency contacts that you need some sort of help, whether that's being injured or if you feel like you're possibly in danger. And it'll also send your location info to them as well. And in addition to that, it also has instant detection. So what happens here is that for walking, running, and cycling, the Lily 2 Active can try to detect when you've been in some sort of unfortunate situation where it'll alert your emergency contacts that something may have happened and then also send them your location info. So it's basically looking for you to kind of suddenly come to a stop and then stop moving. So not just like stopping at a stoplight or something like that, but kind of like a sudden impact and then no movement at all. Now, when it comes to tracking outdoor activities, so the Lily 2 Active now has built-in GPS, or more accurately, GNSS, where it can access different satellite systems around the world to track outdoor activities where you can get speed, distance, as well as location without having to bring your phone with you. And this is one of the biggest changes from the original Lily 2. When it comes to how quickly you can actually get a GPS signal before starting an activity, it's pretty quick on the Lily 2 Active, where it usually takes about 4 to 10 seconds to get a satellite signal, and then you can go out on your run. But when it comes to the actual accuracy though, so the Lily 2 Active is a solid performer here, where it lined up extremely well with plenty of other devices for both running as well as cycling. But moving on to the finer detail of the GPS tracks, again, really solid here, and it was was great compared to tons of other devices. It was solid in all the straight line sections, and then with corners and curves, pretty tight here as well. But I did find that on some higher speed curves and corners, it wasn't quite as accurate as some of the other devices, but those other devices also have higher accuracy satellite chipsets and also cost a bit more too. But certainly no big misses by any means, and really good data overall. Now, looping back to what I was talking about earlier, how the Lily 2 Active doesn't have a built-in altimeter, you still actually can see your total elevation gain on your activities after you save them to the Garmin Connect app. And the elevation gain that you see here is going to be calculated using the GPS data that your watch collected, and then kind of marrying that up with the map data that Garmin Connect has in the back end. The thing that you just won't get though, since it doesn't have a built-in altimeter, is that you won't be able to see your elevation gain in real time during your activity, but you still do totally get it afterwards. So when it comes to heart rate accuracy, so the Lily 2 Active comes with Garmin's 4th generation heart rate sensor, which is in general a pretty good sensor for most activities. So let's go and start with some indoor cycling, which is a pretty easy activity for these kinds of sensors to get right, since you're indoors and don't really have many variables to deal with, like arm movement or vibrations and bumps on the road, which can sometimes throw off these sensors. So on this ride here, on the warm-up period, things were looking really solid. And then as we move into some intervals, the Lily 2 Active was spot on with the external heart rate monitors I was using as references. There were really only 2 spots on this entire workout where I could see anything that was even slightly off. And that's on the tail end of these 2 intervals here, where there was just a little bit of a delay in catching the fall on heart rate. Overall, this is really, really solid though. Now moving on to some riding outside, so this is where there's going to be more things for a watch to deal with, like vibrations and bumps on the road, which can make a watch bounce around, which can then lead to inaccuracies. But the Lily 2 Active does have a pretty big advantage here though, because it is just so small and lightweight, where it stays put really easily versus larger and heavier watches. So like on this ride here, which was kind of like a half road, half gravel ride, well, it's kind of hard to see the heart rate from the Lily 2 Active that's in orange, because it's basically identical to the data that's being collected on the external heart rate sensors. So we actually really need to zoom in really closely to see any difference. And there's really only a handful of small spots on this entire ride where it was off. And when I mean off, it's just kind of a stretch, because we're only talking about a few beats per minute off for like a moment or two. These are really fantastic results for road and gravel riding. And then when it comes to running, that's again pretty solid here, but not quite as spot on as the other 2 examples. There was this spot right here in the middle of the run where it dipped a little bit. Then it got a little bit fumbled up here at the end for a minute or 2, but overall, these are still really good results. No big misses or anything like that. So the heart rate accuracy of the Lily 2 Active is pretty solid for my testing, but if you want even more accurate heart rate, you can actually get that now on the Lily 2 Active, where they've now added the capability of using external sensors like a heart rate monitor, speed and cadence sensor for cycling, their Varia radar and lights. You can also use foot pods, and you can also pair their Tempe temperature sensor. And this was something that I mentioned in my original Lily and Lily 2 reviews as something that I really wanted to see. So I'm really stoked that they've not just added external heart rate sensor support, but all those other additional sensors as well. And then one last thing is that you can also broadcast your heart rate to another device, like let's say a Peloton bike, a cycling training app like Zwift, or even to gym equipment with a heart rate broadcasting feature. And there's also a lot of workout plans that you can choose from here, with a bunch of different predefined workouts that they have in Garmin Connect, with strength training workouts, cardio workouts, yoga, Pilates, as well as high intensity interval training. And then it also can guide you through those workouts on the watch itself. So I think they probably gave us what we all really wanted out of the original Lily 2. The Lily 2 was and is still a great looking watch, but it lacks some features like built-in GPS, physical buttons, as well as support for external sensors like heart rate sensors that probably made some people hesitate in purchasing that watch, because it did lack some features of some of their more sport-focused watches. Again, it is kind of weird though, where I think they actually could have called this the Lily 3, because it is just a much more capable watch than the original Lily 2. Anyhow, if you have any questions about it that I didn't cover in this video, feel free to drop a comment down in the comment section down below. And if you found the information in this video useful, do me a favor and also hit that like button, and also subscribe to the channel for plenty more sports tech videos just like this that are coming soon. In the meantime, have fun out there, and we will see you in the next video.